Hey everyone, welcome to another live with okclarity.com, the live experience that will bring you clarity on our topic today: unleashing your masculinity, 5 steps to becoming a healthy Jewish man. Tonight's live stream will be 30 minutes long, at around the 25-minute mark. I'm going to pause for questions. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat at any time, but I won't address them until the end. So feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll address them at the end. A quick and important disclaimer: everything discussed tonight is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and none of it is a substitute for professional mental health, wellness, medical, or financial advice. My name is Benson Fox. I recently graduated as a PsyD, a doctorate in psychology from Adelphi University. I'm a certified life coach practicing for the past 6 years, helping Jewish men achieve higher levels of joy, balance, and growth in their lives, as well as a dating coach for jwed.com. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So what's the problem that we're going to be addressing here today? Masculinity, right? You hear toxic masculinity, Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson. It goes on and on. So how do we think about this area from a Jewish perspective? It's something that I think many of us feel very confused about, because it's not really discussed very much within many Rabbanim, Rebbeim. They're not really talking about this topic. There's plenty of Jewish sources that discuss it, but it's not really well discussed. So many times end up turning to secular figures, and oftentimes they are very confused themselves about this area, right? Like toxic masculinity. We understand that masculinity is not meant to be used to become overbearing, excessively controlling, excessively authoritative, or condescending, aggression, violence, etc. We understand that, and that is maybe a toxic form of it, even if it can be attractive to certain women. It's many times that is something we all understand to be toxic. And many times the people who, we mentioned Andrew Tate, right? He's someone, for example, as he has some aspects of healthy masculinity. He's very empowered emotionally, physically. He exercises. He knows how to defend himself properly. On the other hand, he's not married. He has no plans to have children, etc. And can be, not respectful of women. And we can all understand that that's not considered to be a healthy way for a man to be. So there's a lot of confusion here. But then we also see in today's world, you have the extreme, the people who are addressing the crisis, and maybe because they're even providing some distorted form of it, that it in itself is something that's not totally proper. But the people who offer the alternative, there is no alternative. So many men in today's society. There's a book called the Boys Crisis, the Men Crisis, the Teens Crisis. That without masculinity, young men are in crisis. They're more depressed. They're home all day. They don't get jobs. They live without purpose, without meaning. They're sedentary. They're purposeless. They're aimless. They push off. They go for one undergrad. They switch to a different undergrad. They switch to this degree, to that degree. And they don't really, they're not able to kickstart in life. They're not getting married. They're not physically active. They're not physically empowered. They're not emotionally empowered. They're just kind of stuck and dependent, and really stuck in many ways as a boy and as a child. So we see these both extremes: the Andrew Tate, which is not healthy, extreme, which has some healthy aspects but has a lot of unhealthy aspects. And then we have the alternative that many men face today, which is nothing, that they don't have any aspects of their masculinity, and we see that causes an equal or greater form of destruction. And I would say that the reason why this topic is so important, as we see, it's reflected by the symptoms of people who don't feel that they have this sense of masculinity, or they don't know how to properly harness or channel it, is that it really cuts to the neshama. We find by Yosef and Dinah that their neshamas switched. That's why Dinah went out to, it was more of an explorer, adventure, which is more of a masculine trait, to take those risks. And then Yosef was someone who cared about his beauty, and that was considered to be a feminine trait. So what we're seeing from this is that their neshamas were literally switched, and we see that the gender and these roles and how it impacts their abilities, etc., and their interests and their desires, it cuts all the way to the soul level. So this is not something that's really peripheral. This is a topic that we're going to the most essential part of a person, mind, body, and so on. It's reflective in your person's body. It's so central. It's in the middle of a person's body, etc. And the reason why this is important to me is I found that even people who are, let's say, mentors in my life, I found that they were equally or more confused when I brought up this topic to them. I find that, again, in the secular world, is like a more toxic form of masculinity. It's harnessed in the wrong way, in some ways in the right way, a lot of ways the wrong way. And as Jews, I think we're all kind of struggling and trying to find a way for us to harness our masculinity to be something that cuts down to our neshamas, to be a source of power, a source of positivity, to be a light unto the world. And how do we do that? So here today, we're going to present 5 steps to becoming a healthy Jewish man. First thing to understand about this is that there's something called, I like to call it the warrior yid. We find that many of the Avos, Avram Avinu went to war, David HaMelech, etc. It goes on and on. That we find that many times that as the greats of our society, right, only the most righteous individuals went to war. A little bit of the inverse of what is today. But that we find so many aspects that Yaakov Avinu, the Shvatim, that they were so strong that they could destroy all of Mitzrayim. The Yaakov Avinu, he flipped off a rock off of a stone. We find that they were all very physically strong. They were all engaged, many of them engaged in wars and battles. And we also just find Ezu Gibor, who's a mighty person, Hakovish Yitzro. We find that there is this, even though it's translated to be conquering one's evil inclination, we still see that it's considered to be a positive thing to be a Gibor. It's telling you, how do you become this positive thing? By doing it in this way. But you still see that the fact that the Chazal spoke about it in this terms shows that even from a Jewish perspective, being masculine, feeling empowered, being a warrior, was something that was considered to be positive and maybe even characteristic of being a religious Jew, to being a holy person. So number one is just to see is that this is something, step number one is first understanding that being masculine, being in a positive, healthy way, is what many of the Gedolim and the greats of our society were, number one, and something that we should all strive to be. So that's step number one. This is something that's good and something that we should strive for. Number two is that I think this is where a lot of the confusion kicks in. There's an 80-20 split between a person's masculine and femininity that they're supposed to incorporate in their lives. Meaning a woman 80-20 their way, man 80-20 towards masculinity. And I think that's really reflective, and even in the biology of a person. We always find that our spirituality many times is reflected in the biology. So we have, every man has, they may not want to admit it, but they have estrogen inside of them. And every woman has testosterone. So there is an aspect of duality, that a person's supposed to achieve. But I find that many people, some people, like, you don't see a feminine bone in their body, and some people that they're more feminine than they are masculine as a man. So depending where you are on that spectrum, there is an aspect that you do kind of cater to your nature. But overall, as like an overall general rule, I think there's about an 80-20 split that you're supposed to be aiming for. That if you're too much caring about your beauty, about your hygiene, about your being nurturing, etc., then I think then there's an aspect that you should start doing something that will get your hands dirty. Working out, taking a fighting class, becoming a leader in something, etc. So doing something that would have more of a masculine frame to it. I think that this is a very important idea, this idea of you have to get the balance right. And if you're out of balance in your masculinity versus femininity, you have to rebalance. And you have to then, I would say, to focus more on increasing your masculinity than reducing your femininity. Meaning, I would say instead of looking like I'm going to stop cooking because that's a feminine trait, to I will start working out. I will start going to this fighting class. I will start becoming a leader in a project in my company and whatever. I will become an entrepreneur. I'll start taking more risks in my life, which is a more masculine trait. So I would just say that, number one, understand this is an important thing. Number two, and something to strive for, and many of the greats had this. Number two is understanding that there's a balance here that we're meant to strike. There is an aspect of both we're supposed to have, but it's supposed to be a more dominant towards, your natural gender. So if this is geared towards men. So a man is supposed to be 80-20 masculine, about. So and the way that I would suggest to go about that is not by reducing the femininity so much as to increasing the masculinity. Number three Get some practical, here are some practical tips on amplifying masculinity, right? We mentioned a few, but, right, weightlifting, fighting class. I would say also increasing discipline, the first time the alarm hits, don't start your day hitting the snooze button, right? Get up right away. Maybe take a cold shower, right? Increase your pain tolerance. So, if you get a little cut, maybe don't rush to put on a Band-Aid. Or if you're having a little bit of a headache, don't rush to put an Advil. Advil is something that Europeans, you need a prescription for. America, the slightest discomfort, maybe if like it's at 76 degrees, don't turn on the AC. You sweat a little, not a big deal. So these are some practical tips that I think that you can take to increase your masculinity. Another one, start taking on responsibilities, right? That's a very big core part of masculinity. It's someone like Andrew Tate, etc., that they don't necessarily understand as well, right? A person's supposed to incorporate. They're supposed to be responsible for their family, for themselves, for every aspect. Be responsible for your own soul. Be responsible for your family's soul. Be responsible for your own body. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. Take on responsibilities. Follow through on commitments. Prove yourself to be reliable. When you say something, you follow through. You get it done. I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter. You get it done. You do what you said you're going to do. Your word is worth gold. They could take it to the bank, they could cash it, because they know you are good for that. Another aspect is independence. Don't, if you're being supported by family, try to get yourself, live within your means. Sooner cut back on your expenses than to be willing to stick your hand out for money, maybe even from the government, but for sure, at least from family and friends. Look to be someone that you're independent financially, independent in terms of maybe even emotionally, that let's say, it's important to reach out for support in times of great need, but maybe you don't need to whine about every little thing that's going on in your life. Maybe it's some things you're supposed to learn to forgive and let go of, or tolerate the pain of it. So just to review some of the practical tips we're saying is to amplify a person's masculinity, assuming that person is feeling that they are too feminine, would be weightlifting, fighting class, discipline, pain tolerance, increasing responsibility, following through on commitments, increasing reliability, increasing independence, financial, emotional, etc. Number 4. So sometimes a person can be too masculine, and therefore a person would need tips then on amplifying their femininity. So how does a person increase their femininity? Learn to become someone who facilitates others. Be someone who's an encouraging light onto the world, a nurturing presence. Become someone that, become a nurturing role. That could look like babysitting. It could look like marriage, right? In marriage, there's a big role for that. Mentorship, motherhood, to be there for a younger brother, to be a nurse, a social worker, a youth director. The idea is to be someone that's in there to be a nurturing presence to others, to be a light onto them, to receive others, and to cause them to grow and blossom and become their true selves. And that's something to give that love, to give that nurture, something that's a uniquely woman trait, to focus more on beauty for yourself and others, bringing out other people's beauty, bringing out your own beauty. So those are some tips for femininity, again, because we're focusing on trying to get the balance right. And we're focusing on practical tips on how to, for a person to increase either their masculine side, if that's the side that they're lacking, or increasing their feminine side, if that is the side that they are lacking in. Number 5, make it your identity. Protect it, align yourself with it. There's some times where you're going to be in situations where what people are doing is they are they're trying to push you out of your role, and that can happen in a friendship, in a marriage, in a coworker, etc., where they're looking to almost like push you into something that and it's a disrespect of your soul. It's something that you should say, I am a man, I am going to be a healthy, kosher, good man, and I'm going to be someone who's going to protect it. People disrespect it, I'm going to enforce that boundary, right? Not in a way that you're looking to puff up your chest and beat your chest to other people, but something that you're looking to identify with in a strong way, respect it in a strong way, and to really be there for yourself, to be someone that is in a very strong way to identify, align yourself with it, to live in synchronicity with it, to protect it, and to demand that others respect it as well. Obviously, minor disrespects, etc., can be dismissed. When someone's looking to push you out of it, to push you into a different role, different place, then that is something that you should not let people do that to you, etc. So that's a wrap for today. Anyone has any questions, feel free to post it in the chat. I'm going to pause now to see, give everyone a minute if they wanted to post it in the chat. Any questions or any feedback on this presentation? Alrighty, so I don't see any questions here. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to do a quick summary for everyone. If anyone has any questions, they could feel free to post it below. But in the meantime, I hope tonight's conversation provided you some clarity. Get it? Okay, clarity. On unleashing your masculinity, 5 steps to becoming a healthy Jewish man. And I hope that you walk away with, let's do just a quick wrap. Point number 1, understand that this is an important point. Everyone's very confused about it, but it is a strong Jewish value to be a strong, powerful, independent, responsible Jewish man. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to be a warrior, physically and emotionally empowered. There should be an 80-20 split between, number 2, 80-20 split between your masculinity and femininity. And if you're too much in either direction, you got to rebalance. And I bring the proof from testosterone and estrogen. It goes all the way to a person's body. And we said some practical tips of either increasing we said to focus more on increasing the side that you need more of, as opposed to reducing the side that you have too much of. And we said that there's a few tips in terms of increasing your side is, either weightlifting, fight class, discipline, increasing pain tolerance, responsibility, following through on commitments, reliability, independence, financially, emotionally, spiritually, etc. We said some tips to amplifying femininity is focusing on facilitating others, encouraging others, nurturing others, mentorship, motherhood, marriage, younger brothers, babysitting, nurse, social worker, youth director, whatever role is available to you, to play that, be that light, to be that nurturing role, to focus more on the aesthetic, on the beauty of the world, on yourself and others, physical, emotional, spiritual beauty. And then we said, last but not least, make it your identity, protect it, align yourself within it, live in sync with it, and demand that others respect it, not be insecure about it, but to be something that is who you are. And in today's world, we're very much discouraged from embracing it, and we're encouraged to almost like, oh yeah, it's fine, this, that. No, it's something that's a very important part of you, and you should respect it, and others will as well. So thank you for being here. I look forward to spending time with you all again very soon. This is Dr. Benson Fox, ID, and feel free to go on okclarity.com to learn more about me. I hope you guys all enjoyed here today, and I will see you in the next live. Take care.